You know who should be really scared? Is the babysitter and the two twins. They know a lot of stuff. If I were you, I'd stop. That message was sent to two documentary filmmakers earlier this year. 24 hours later, they hired a retired FBI agent for personal security, all because of one man. For 12 years, this man swore to doctors, to police, to congressmen, and to every reporter who would listen that he had no idea who he was. His fingerprints matched no one, his DNA matched no one. He was the only person in America legally missing from himself. There was just one problem. He was lying. And in the next 30 minutes, I'm going to prove it using a single Google search. Here's what's coming. 1. How a 28-year-old walked out of his own life in Indiana in 1976 and stayed invisible for 21 years. 2. Why he showed up naked behind a Georgia Burger King in 2004 with no memory, no ID, and no shoes. 3. How a woman he never met spit into a plastic tube in 2013 and blew his cover from 1,000 miles away. 4. And why the people investigating him right now believe he is tied to a 49-year-old unsolved murder, a Midwestern crime family, and a story that could still get someone killed. Every part of this is real, and what this one man accidentally proved over 50 years teaches you more about who you actually are in 2026 than any philosopher I've ever read. Let's go. The ghost with a name. The man behind the dumpster. 5 a.m, Richmond Hill, Georgia. A Burger King employee is taking out the trash. Behind the dumpster, he finds a man, naked, sunburned, unconscious, late 50s, maybe 60, no wallet, no shoes, no ID. The paramedics get him to St. Joseph Hospital in Savannah. He doesn't wake up right away. When he does, he can't remember his own name. The hospital calls him Burger King, though. BK, though. He remembers a first name, Benjamin, spelled weird with an A, not an I. He picks a last name out of thin air, Kyle, because his initials are BK. He has cataracts in both eyes. He literally cannot see his own reflection. He thinks he's in his 40s when a charity funds surgery 9 months later, and he finally sees himself in a mirror. He realizes he is roughly 20 years older than he thought he was. Let me repeat that. He didn't know how old he was. He didn't know what he looked like. He didn't know his own name. And for 12 years, neither did anyone else. The doctors run his fingerprints through every federal database, no match. They submit DNA to the FBI, no match. A congressman, Jack Kingston of Georgia, personally intervenes, nothing. A Georgia nurse named Catherine Slater basically adopts the case. She lets him live in her care facility. She lets him mow lawns for pocket money. She tries repeatedly to raise donations for an apartment for him. He refuses every time. Money makes him nervous, which is weird because a man with no ID, no benefits, no history, a man legally locked out of America should be desperate for cash. He should be trying to get on Social Security. He should be trying to prove he exists. Catherine Slater notices this too, and it plants something in her, a doubt she can't shake. Meanwhile, his fragments of memory point to specific places in Indianapolis in the 1950s, Boulder and Denver, Colorado in the late 70s, Purdue University in Indiana. He says he worked there as a janitor, and that's all. There's a wall around everything after 1983. And on the other side of that wall, nothing. This is the setup. A man with no past who won't take money and who is, according to himself and every doctor who's examined him, medically real. Real cataracts, real dissociative amnesia diagnosis, real verified helplessness, So for 11 years, nobody knows who he is. He's on Dr. Phil, he's in New Republic, he's in every newspaper in the country. He becomes, according to every article about him, the only person in America officially missing from their own identity. And then somebody has an idea, a very specific, very modern idea, an idea never planned for. And it is the beginning of the end for him. The only thing he couldn't hide. The idea belongs to a forensic genealogist named Colleen Fitzpatrick. She specialized in identifying unknown remains through DNA, the same kind of work that later cracks the Golden State Killer case. In late 2014, she starts running Benjamin Kyle's DNA against a genealogy database. Not to find him, you can find someone whose profile isn't on file, but to find his cousins. Because here's the trick. You might be able to hide yourself, you can't hide your cousins. Somewhere in America, a person Benjamin Kyle has never met is spitting into a tube for ancestry DNA. That person's DNA has 40% of the same building blocks as his, and that person filled out the family tree. By February 2015, Fitzpatrick is close. She thinks she's about to identify him. She's tracing the family back to a 19th century ancestor named Abraham Lovely Powell. And then, right at the finish line, Benjamin Kyle disappears from her. He stops answering her emails, he cuts off contact, he gets skittish. Something has scared him about the DNA project, which is a weird reaction for a man who's been begging strangers to identify him for 11 years. But Fitzpatrick isn't the only one working on it. A separate team led by another genetic detective, C.C. Moore, pushes through. September 16th, 2015, they nail down who he is. November 21st, 2016, they announce it publicly. William Burgess Powell, born August 29th, 1948 in Lafayette, Indiana. William Powell disappeared from his hometown in 1976. He was 28 years old. He walked away from his family, left his car, left his trailer, left every possession he had. His family filed a missing persons report. Police tracked him down to Boulder, Colorado, where they were told he had moved on impulse with a coworker. The family stopped searching. They assumed, like families do, that he wanted to be gone. Social Security records show William Powell was employed in various jobs off and on from 1976 to 1983. Then nothing. The paper trail ends. There's a 21-year hole. On the other end of it, a naked man behind a Burger King who says he can't remember his own name. 21 years. Where do you disappear to for 21 years? What do you do? What do you become? The DNA answered who he was. It didn't answer any of that. And two filmmakers are about to spend the next 11 years of their lives finding out, and what they find is going to get them followed. The Google search that solved it. Shannon Evangelista is a former attorney. Her husband Eric is a journalist. Together they made a documentary called The Curious Case of Natalia Grace, the one about the couple who claimed their adopted daughter was actually an adult sociopath. Around 2015, when Benjamin Kyle's identity is being publicly revealed, they start looking into him. What was meant to be a straightforward follow-up on a resolved mystery turns into an 11 years of investigation. And what they find isn't the story anyone expected. Eric Evangelista puts it this way in the finished documentary, quote, "This amnesia doesn't exist. It's like you're watching General Hospital with your grandma in 1986. They believe the amnesia is fake, and they have the receipts. Here's the smoking gun, and it is genuinely one of the best examples of how much the internet has changed the possibility of hiding that I have ever seen. William Powell, the man who supposedly couldn't remember his own name for a decade, was Googling his real name. Somewhere in Florida, on a public library computer, He was typing William Burgess Powell into a search bar. He was checking whether he could quietly reconnect to his own Social Security benefits because after 20 years of being paper invisible, he was getting older and needing money. You cannot amnesia your own way into forgetting your own name and then type that same name into a search engine. Either you know it or you don't. He knew it. The Evangelistas bring in a retired FBI special agent, Ken Maxwell, to review the case. Maxwell spent decades investigating organized crime. Maxwell reviews the 2004 hospital intake records, and something jumps out at him. The paramedics found Powell naked and sunburned, but, quote, there wasn't a single abrasion or scratch on his body other than infected ant bites on the soles of his feet, skin mites, and some sunburn, which is inconsistent with the story that he was beaten and dumped behind the Burger King. Maxwell's conclusion: William Powell walked to that dumpster on his own. He took his clothes off on his own. He laid down on his own, and he waited to be found. And Maxwell has another observation about the 1976 Indiana disappearance. Walking away from your family, your job, your car, your possessions, that's not desperation, Maxwell says. That's not a fresh start. That is a specific behavior pattern of a person who is actively fleeing something. Fleeing who? Here's the question I've been dancing around for the last 20 minutes. If amnesia was fake, why? Why fake it for 20 years? Why refuse money? Why endure that much media attention? Why type your own name into a search bar and then keep the lie going? What could possibly be worth that? Here's what the evangelist found. The thing worth hiding from for 48 years. Here's the piece that turns this from a weird mystery into something a lot heavier. William Powell told Catherine Slater and every doctor he ever spoke to that he worked at some point as a janitor at Purdue University in West Lafayette, Indiana in the 70s. In 1977, 1 year after Powell disappeared from Lafayette, a Purdue student named Christine Kozek was murdered. Her case has been unsolved for 49 years. The Evangelistas' investigation, according to the documentary, links William Powell to that case and to alleged connections with what the show calls, quote, a powerful Midwestern crime family. The specific name of the family is bleeped in the finished doc. I want to be really careful here. This is what the investigators claim. It has not been proven in court. William Powell has not been charged with any crime related to Kosick or the crime family. But three things happened during the investigation that are worth putting on record. One, the Evangelistas start receiving threats, direct, specific threats. A source relays a message that includes, and I'm reading directly from the reporter here, quote, you know who should be really scared is the babysitter and the two twins. They know that they have a nanny and they know that they have twins. They know a lot of stuff. And if I were you, I'd stop. 2, Shannon and Eric Evangelist hired the retired FBI Ken Maxwell as personal security for a documentary shoot. 3, William Powell stops cooperating with them. Here's the theory the documentary lands on. Powell wasn't running away from his family in 1976. He was running away from what he had done or what he had seen, and he knew people were coming for him. For 21 years, from 1983 to 2004, he lived off the grid. No paper trail, no fingerprints, no known addresses. He was getting older, and you can only stay off the grid for so long when you need medical care. So he did the smartest thing a person on the run can do. He hid in the spotlight. Think about it. If someone wants to kill you quietly, the last place they can do it is in front of a national news audience. The camera crews, the Reddit sleuths, the FBI databases running your face, the congressman writing to Social Security on your behalf. The moment William Powell became Benjamin Kyle, America's most famous amnesiac, he became unkillable. Every news article was a piece of armor. It's the exact opposite of witness protection, which hides you. This is witness protection through visibility. It's not a real system. He built it himself. And it worked for 20 years. Thinking about who you are. There's a reason this channel is called Metathynk. It's because the most interesting thing about being alive right now is the substrate, the rails, the system underneath the thing you experience. And what William Powell teaches us accidentally over the course of a 50-year-long personal experiment is that identity is not a fact, it's a bureaucracy. Your social security number, your fingerprints, your DNA, and your cousin's ancestry account, your credit report, your driver's license photo, the people who remember your face, your Google search history. Take any one of them away and you're still you. Take them all away and legally, in the eyes of every institution in America, you don't exist. William Powell figured that out. He walked out of that trailer in Lafayette in 1976 and he unplugged himself from every rail. He was functionally invisible for 21 years. And then because the modern world is what it is, the substrate found him anyway. Not through the paper trail. He'd erased that. It found him through a cousin he never met who spit into a tube in 2013 in order to find out where her great-great-grandfather was born. And by his own fingerprints on a public library keyboard, typing a name he claimed for 12 years to have forgotten. That's the Metathynk lesson. In 2026, you cannot erase yourself. The system is too dense now. Somebody somewhere is always spitting into a tube. Somebody somewhere is always searching a name. The only person William Powell couldn't stop from looking him up was William Powell. William Powell is still alive. He is in his mid-70s. He has stopped cooperating with investigators. His side of the story, beyond what he told doctors for 12 years, has not been publicly told. His family in Indiana has stayed largely quiet. Kristen Kozik's family is still waiting for answers. And evangelistas, the filmmakers, are, as of publication, still under private security. So think about this before you send your next text, before you swipe your next card, before you smile at your next camera. You are not one person. You are the intersection of about 100,000 records held by 100 separate systems. If you disappear, they don't. And in the end, they will find you through one thing you can't stop doing, which is being alive. If this broke your brain, share it with someone whose brain needs breaking too. Next month, the company that knows what you'll do before you do it, subscribe.